Hey guys, let us talk about your very first project for CSCI 3360 database systems. The purpose of this project is that I want you guys to learn how to create a database from scratch. So right now you don't have any database at your hand. This project is going to build up the foundation for your database creation throughout the whole semester. So all of the projects are related to each other. I also want you guys to be familiar with the idea of the ER diagram. Since this is what you have learned so far, I want you guys to create the ER diagram for the database. I also want to make sure that you are be able to perform all basic notations described in the ER diagram so that you can have a full understanding, including all the entity, relationships, weak entity, attributes, etc. So this project is going to be a semester-long project that will including about 4 to 5 team members. Everything you do in this project will carry over to other projects for the rest of the semester. So everything that you will do is based on this project, and therefore you need to know this is a very important project. You are asked to design the database in this very project. Later, you will need to implement the design. In Oracle, you also need to load the data for your database, and you also need to create meaningful queries. So again, this project is very, very important. Team members will be assigned based on my class roster, because this is going to be a hybrid or very close to a full online class. You may have little interactions with your team members. So I feel it's much easier for me to assign the team members. For any reasons, if you find someone that you can swap with, you want to be in some team with your close friend that's doable, please let me know as soon as possible. I will set a deadline, the very first deadline, to finalize the team members. So let's start talking about what is it that I want you guys to do. So the project is going to design a movie database based on imdb.com. I believe most of you guys should be familiar with the IMDb already, and everybody watches the movies. So I feel this is going to be a very close to life experiments for you guys to work on. So what I want you guys to do is basically go to IMDb, try to understand what is this website looks like, and then obviously there is a huge database in imdb.com. I want you guys to recreate the database in back of it. You don't need to recreate the whole IMDb database. It's probably impossible, just like Amazon. But I want you guys to capture the most important things that related to you and design the database based on that. So that requires a lot of team discussions, as well as back and forth design. This is kind of an open-ended project, so it's relatively more like a research instead of a project, because every team will design slightly different from each other, even though all of you guys are based on imdb.com. Let's take a look at IMDb so that you will know what is it that I'm talking about. For IMDb, obviously, one of the most important things is about the movies. So I use the Avengers as an example. I love the movie. So take a look at this one. Movie as an entity. You will have a lot of different attributes describing this movie. Starting with PG-13, obviously, this is an attribute. How long is the movie? What type of genre? So you can see that there's actually 3 genres over here. That gives you an idea of genre is actually a multi-value attribute because it can hold multiple attributes over here. The release date, so you can see that there's already have many attributes available over there. On top of that, you see that directors, and this is very interesting because I see there are 2 directors, Russell brothers, obviously. So to capture this, how would you design the director attribute, since you have multiple values over here? Writers as well, and then you have many stars, the celebrity, the actors. So you can see that just looking into a very first top areas, there's actually a lot of information that you can capture for a movies already. Obviously, movie is one of the most important entity in imdb.com. Next, if we looked into actors, Robert Downey Jr., you will see that Robert Downey Jr. as an actor entity, you need to keep track of several informations. When does it born? Where is the born place? And there are going to be some short bios over here. Some of them may have won the award, some of them don't. That gives you some informations regarding to their either weak entity attributes, entity types, or some attributes. So there's actually a lot of different designs that you can look into. If we go back to the directors, Anthony Russell, by looking into his information, you will be able to see the basic information: when does he born, where does he born, short bio over here, what are the movies that this person, this director has ever directed. And you can see that this is what I was talking about. He won some premium time Emmy award, and there are also some awards that he has won. So there's a lot of different informations related to this entity. So that how would you want to capture the ideas of movie, director, actor, those kind of things? There's a lot of different choices that you can make. If we looked into the IMDb landing page, so this is imdb.com, by click on the menu, you will be able to see even more information. It has movies, it has celebrities, TV shows, video, community, award, and events. There's a lot of different things over here. Celebrities, like we said, can be divided into actors, directors, writers, a lot of different things over here. TV shows, videos, etc. That's why I'm saying you don't need to capture all of this information. There's some minimum requirements I want you to achieve for the entity and the relationship. As long as you achieve those minimum numbers, how would you want to create a database is going to be your choice. By looking into this one thing I want to mention about the community, and we will see this part as well later, is that if this is, try to keep community away from your design. That's my conclusion, because there is going to be some personal informations, ID, password, what kind of personal information is going to be in here. It's not going to be easy for you to retrieve those information. Remember, the database design that we create is going to be designed for loading all of those data, be able to make the queries out of it. So if you create something that you are not able to get the information, that's not going to be easy for you. So let's come back to the database, the project description. So I want you to design a movie database based on imdb.com. In your first report, which will worth 50% of your project one, you should have the following materials. You'll notice that because this project one is such an important project, so I give you two opportunities. The first one is that after you finish everything, we will have a presentation. We will have a meeting. Either face-to-face or online meeting is going to be your team's choice. At that time, I will be able to give you my feedbacks. I will give you a score which was 50% of the project. After that, you will have 1 week to revise it based on my suggestions, and you will receive another score. So obviously, if you've done everything perfectly for the first time of a try, you probably don't even need to do any revisions, and you'll get a very good scores already. Of course, if you don't do very well, misunderstood some designs, there's an opportunity for you to catch up so that you are still be able to have a good design to carry over for other projects. So these are the requirements that you need to do. First of all, a cover sheet. So I need you to prepare me a cover sheet, including your team members, and of course the topic is going to be related to imdb.com. Then I need you to provide me a database requirements on all entity types. First of all, you need to have at least 6 entities. For those entities, I want you to describe those entities in daily life English description, so not CS jargons. I also want you to prepare your functional requirements, at least 3 functional requirements regarding to the IMDb. Consider this project as a proposal to solve the real-world database problem. You bring the problem in written format and your ER diagram as the proposal for the problem. So let's take a look at the example I prepared in the end of this document. And I'm going to just simply use the class examples. These are the requirements. See that it talks about the company database consists of 4 entities. Each entity has an English description for those. So if saying that the very first entity is movie, so you need to say this database, it keeps track of the movie, and the movie has its starting date, directors, possibly multiple directors, multiple actors, etc. to describe every single entity in English, not in ER diagram or computer science jargons, because this is the time for you to use to communicate with other people, which I would be more like your client when you and me are having a face-to-face meeting or online meeting. The functional requirements is like your derived attribute actually. The database can calculate how many employees works for each department. In other words, you are talking about the number of employees as a derived attribute. So you need to provide at least 6 entities for your database design, as well as at least 3 functional requirements that you would want to design. And how are those things be achieved can be briefly described. For example, again, if we look into the movie, and this is actually not very hard for the functional requirements, say in theaters, or coming soon. As long as your database has a release date, you will be able to do these kind of things. Saying that release date is next week, obviously this is going to be fall into a coming soon catalog. So if we click into the coming soon, you can see that there are several movies that are coming up. So this is as a function for the database. And come back. So that's the first important things that you need to prepare, basically entity database requirements. And then of course is the ER diagram. Based on your requirements, you will need to draw the ER diagram. So that requirements need to clearly specify what are the entities you want to keep track of and the relationships among those entities. Again, those need to be captured in English descriptions. And of course, based on that, you design your ER diagram. And then inside of your ER diagram, because you will have multiple relationships over there, I need you to describe every single relationship that you have in English as well. So describe the meaning of all relationship types. For each relationship, you need to explain cardinal ratio and total partial constraints in English. Minimum of 7 relationships are required. So this is not hard because you need to have at least 6 entities. 7 relationships are the minimum that I have. What is the example of this one? If we do again using the class materials, you can see that for one relationship works for, there are 2 sentences you need to describe it, because you can go from one direction as well as the other direction. So I need you to provide me the English descriptions of every single relationship in both directions, which means since we have minimum of 7 relationships, you need to have at least 14 sentences to explain the meaning of every single relationship. Finally, every notation in the following table should appear at least once in your ER diagram, and therefore you need to have all of these descriptions, including the weak entity, identifying relationships, multi-value attribute, composite attribute, derived attribute, etc. So you need to have all of these things. Once you have prepared everything, we will schedule a 10 minutes PowerPoint presentation. We will have a meeting, again, either face-to-face, we can meet in the school, or online through Google Meet, meeting with every single team members, join and then talk about your design for you to present your design. And at the time, you need to have everything ready, item from 1 to 5. You need to submit all documents through Blackboard before the meeting so that I can have a quick look before we meet. You will receive a score as the score for your first report, which was 50% of the project 1. I will give you the feedbacks after our meeting. Let you know I like it, I don't like it, why I think this can be further improved. Based on my revision, you will have about 1 week to submit your revision report, and I will give you another score, which was another 50% of your project 1. In summary, there's going to be 3 due days. The first one is team member list. Once we have set up the team lists, you will have about 3 days to finalize it. If you want to swap it. If you don't want to swap, meet with your team members to have a feeling of what it looks like. And after that, you will have about 2 weeks to work on your first project report. And then we will schedule our meeting time. And based on that, you will have 1 more week after the meeting to submit your revision. So these due dates will be announced in Blackboard. Obviously, you can see that the number of teams I can meet is pretty limited. I won't be able to meet like every single one in 1 day. So every team will have slightly different in time management wise. Please note that your PowerPoint presentation, which comes from item 6, is not your report. I have to emphasize this again and again because there are many teams doing something weird. Part 1 and 5 are considered as the real report. PowerPoint presentation is only a PowerPoint presentation, so the 2 things are independent to each other. Your PowerPoint presentation can borrow the materials you prepare from item 1 through 5. However, PowerPoint cannot be submitted as a report. So that is going to be a very important thing for you to understand. This is going to be your project number 1. There's a lot of information being kept track of this video. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email or come to the class meeting time. I will be able to help you if you have any questions.